Welcome to Winning in Clubroom. My name is Mark Moyer, as you may know, and I'm super excited to be hosting today Marnie Schneider. Marnie is absolutely fantastic, has such an incredible background, and I'm going to be talking about that shortly. Hey, yeah. How's it going, Marnie?
Good. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So Marnie was born in New York, but somehow mistakenly raised in Philadelphia, and graduated from Penn State. And really, after spending some time and a career with NFL Films and with William Morris Agency, which I'm really curious about, actually, but really 6 or 7 years ago, got into writing a series of books that I think initially wasn't meant to be this big, and it's gotten to be really huge. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Also, what really cemented Marnie's, I guess, connection to NFL football is her grandfather was the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, Leonard Tose, and her mom was the first female GM and the only female GM in NFL history. Also was legal counsel and a vice president there. So tremendous amount of history there. But most importantly, we need to meet the dog, Marnie.
He left us for a little while.
He'll be back.
Anyway, he got a better offer. There was food somewhere. So, I know him pretty well. The other two are here, but Fumble, he goes where the food is.
Yeah. You don't keep treats handy just for this reason?
You know what? That's a good idea.
Or what do you call it? Like in the Seinfeld episode when he had what was it? The stuff in his jacket pocket and all the dogs were chasing after him.
That's right.
Anyway.
I will start to, I will figure out how to do that. That's a good idea.
Excellent. Yeah. How many of your interviews have started talking about treats for your dog? Probably not. Anyways, but look,
figuring out that you gave me a solution of what to do to make sure that he is here during an interview. That's a good idea. So thank you.
I am the solution guy, sure. Well, listen, I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. I mean, it's been a little while since we connected, but it's great to see you again. Just a little bit of history. Both Marnie and I we met because we were both featured in a book by Scott McGregor called Standing O, where he asked each of us to write a little segment about someone who really had a giant influence on our lives. And so I met Marnie in person at the book launch, and that was, I don't know, it was pre-COVID. So what was that, like 5 or 6 years ago or something?
I think it was like 2018.
Wow. Seems like 20 years ago because COVID was right, in the way there.
Yeah, it was 2018, maybe 19, but I think it was 2018.
Geez, yikes. But anyway, so look, I want to jump into a couple of things real quick. Number one thing I'm very interested to hear from you is that when you're sort of born into a family that's got all that rich history within the NFL and so forth, it's almost as if you're growing up, but did you realize that you were sort of born into this thing, or were other people like saying, "Oh, Marnie, you're so lucky," or was it just totally normal for you? What was it like?
So my mom did an incredible job, I think, of normalizing experiences that were probably, definitely unique to just the football situation. So, yes, people would always say like, "Oh, that's so cool." And that was something that I agreed with. Yes, it's cool. But then the other part of it is that there's, long plane rides and you're not sitting in the front of the plane, you're sitting in the way back, and then all the waiting around like a tunnel at the stadium is very cold and boring, and you're often hungry while you're waiting for the buses to leave, to go to the airport, to get back home. So while there were incredible experiences that were certainly, the highs are very high, but the normalcy of it was just kind of like, all right, this is a weekend business trip, and if you're going to behave yourself, you can come, and if not, you're going to stay home. And that was it.
You're going to behave yourself.
Yeah. And I did. And what's so interesting is like, I've never been a drinker and I've never done drugs. Like, I was never interested in any of those things. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I did want to participate in the things that were going on. And I knew that, like, if I was being unruly or stupid or whatever, I wasn't going to get to go do those things. And so I just chose not to.
Got it. So So your mom's involved with the team, and then obviously your grandfather was owning it for a time. How long did he have it?
About 20 years.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I'm curious about this. Did the players themselves interact with you much, or was there some suspicion that because you were related to the owner that maybe they should watch themselves around you, that kind of thing?
I was on the younger side, so
Yep.
even just a young teenager, and I think football players now, they look at them and these were just like, I was a small person. So I think that like I saw these big guys and I was scared of them. And they would have been friendly and nice. And I was like, oh no, they're like big adult scary men. I'm just gonna hide in the back of the plane and, read my coloring books or whatever it was. I think my mom definitely had obviously a lot of interaction, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of more, and they were always polite and nice to me, but it wasn't so much socializing with them. But there were a few that were always nice. Like, of course, Ron Jaworski and Harold Carmichael and Wilbur Montgomery, some of those guys, and then the coaching staff, they were always nice and fun and would like be like, oh, here's a candy bar or whatever, that kind of stuff. And I'm still friendly with a lot of them. And they always made me feel special, for sure.
Oh, that's great. Now, do you find that, is there any interaction much with the current team, or was it because it's new, everything, then you're that's great if you show up for a game, but.
Howie Roseman, who's the GM, is amazing. I love Howie. I'm a huge fan of his. He is incredibly gracious and kind. But what I find is that like I like to do things that I don't ask for tickets. Like, I'll ask for tickets, but I'll pay for the tickets. And then
Right.
it ends up being like, I pay for the tickets and I have to send thank you presents and pre-thank you presents. And I'm like, I should have just gone on StubHub. Like, that's probably been much easier than being like, can I, but they're great. And a few of the players, Brandon Graham, some of the older, like the older guys, although they're not really old, but some of the older guys I'm, still, I am connected with and certainly have some sort of, kind of low key social media friendship with, but that's pretty much it. But the older guy, like the old throwback guys, they're the ones that I still am very much in touch with.
Oh, that's awesome. So, so tell me a little bit about, and we don't need to walk through your whole career and so forth, but I guess I'd love to hear a little bit about what were you doing with NFL films for the most part?
So when I graduated from college and I went to Penn State, and I can see all of Karen's comments. Yes, we are. Yeah. So, in my senior year of high school, the Eagles were sold. So that was kind of like, what am I going to do now? Like, I'd really not thought about it. And suddenly I was like, I thought maybe I would go to Penn or Villanova. But, so I kind of had to scramble around to figure out where I was going to go. And I didn't want to go very far. And Penn State was a good option. And, my grandfather had a couple times tried to hire Joe Paterno, but coach never wanted to leave Happy Valley. But he was very gracious and said, we'd love to have her. So I graduated from Penn State, and Karen and I have talked about this, like, the smart people stay, like the dumb ones get out in 4 years. Cause like, why would you leave Happy Valley in 4 years? Like, it's so stupid. But I graduated in 4 years and then I went to go work for NFL Films. And Steve Sable, my grandfather was very close with Ed Sable, his dad, and played a pretty large role in helping to create NFL Films. Ed had kind of started it in the early 60s, but it really didn't turn into what it was until the 70s. And my grandfather and Ed Sable were very close. They lived near each other in Philadelphia. So I went to go work at NFL Films, and I worked for Steve, and I was his assistant and got to travel around and kind of learn a lot of things about his way of doing interviews and what he liked and how to make sure that everything looks consistent. And if you go back and you look at interviews from the 80s, they look almost the same as they do today, the same style, the same. He wants everybody either in a black crew neck t-shirt or a navy blue crew neck t-shirt, so that there's any sort of so that you really can't tell. And so I did that for a couple years, and it was lots of fun. And then thought like maybe I should just get out of Philadelphia for a change of pace and see what else is out there. And whether it was a good decision or not, moved to California and took a job in the mailroom at the William Morris agency.
But so did, didn't, what's his name?
David Geffen.
What's that?
David Geffen.
What about Geffen?
Oh, that's how he started, in the mailroom at the William.
Yeah, I know, but also I was going to say Elf. What's his name? Was down in the mailroom. Oh my God. Anyways, don't worry about it. So, so you're in this, but tell me about the progression there. Like, what did you end up seeing and doing?
When I first moved to California, entertainment, my grandfather, was right. He said sports is the biggest entertainment that there is. But for whatever reason, people in the movie business or TV business kind of still they were like drinking their own Kool-Aid, where you would say, like, I worked for NFL Films, and they were like, what is that? Like, they didn't even know what that was. Like, they were so behind the times. But I moved to Los Angeles and thought, I didn't know anybody there. It was really a kind of unbelievable thing when I think back on it. Like, I moved across the country. I didn't know a single person. There was no iPhones back then. So you actually had to read a map, which is ridiculous. I still can't read a map. And I said, well, I guess I should just get a job in the mailroom at one of these agencies, which is very competitive. Like, I had no idea the competitive nature of just getting a job to go deliver packages. When you first get into the mailroom, at the time, this was in the mid 90s, assistant or people that were in the mailroom were still driving around in their own car, dropping off packages. And what they would say to me often is that I was missing MOR, which was missing on rodeo, which was hilarious because I wasn't shopping. I was just lost. Because you don't know where you're going and you're delivering packages. They've changed it all now. So like they have messenger services and whatever else. But I started really that's how I started delivering packages. And then you get promoted to actually staying inside the building and delivering mail to assist to agents and so forth. And then you get promoted eventually to be somebody's assistant, which is, a terrible job, but you learn a lot. It's an interesting, definitely a very interesting business, the entertainment business, like that, for sure.
So I guess that lets us sort of wander into the world of Adam Sandler. How did that all happen?
So I think that so I was working at the William Morris agency, and I knew Adam, and I knew all the young guys, Adam, David Spade, Chris Rock, Rob Schneider, just because that's we were all in the same age group. Mm-hmm. And then I decided that I was going to leave the agency business. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather be talent than represent talent. That's kind of what I had decided after working for the head of the motion picture department. I was like, yeah, this is not for me. I'm going to not do this job. Just because the quality of life was so bad, the way they treated people. I had been around very high level successful people, and agents just notoriously treated their assistants and everybody else so poorly that it was really, I don't think that people operate like that anymore. I really don't. I don't think they can keep jobs if they do. Just the way that they would talk to people and treat people was really rotten.
Give me a couple examples.
Well, I mean, on a verbal harassment level, the verbal harassment was outrageous. I mean, so I was called many different names. I mean, okay, for example, one time, and I never left my office for lunch, and I said to John, the guy that I was working for, something about eating something, and he said, you don't need it, keep dialing. And I was like, because the phone, you got to keep dialing.
Yeah, of course.
And, so there was just a lot of abuse like that. I mean, you can't and then there was also some of the other stuff which is very we've all heard about the Hollywood notorious things, Harvey Weinstein, all of that. The guy that I worked for was friends with him. I mean, it was just it was just very bad behavior. And again, I don't think people behave like that anymore. And so, I mean, I hope they don't. But the way that they treated people back in the mid 90s, mid to late 90s, in the agency business was, I mean, they made movies about it. My friend George made a movie called Swimming with Sharks, about which Kevin Spacey was in, and about a Hollywood, producer and his assistant. And it was like, and there were so many, and George had worked for Joel Silver. So that we were all friends, and there were so many different things that were entirely accurate. I mean, these people were pretty vile. And again, coming from the sports world, nobody in sports was like that. They were, it's interesting. People in sports get kind of a bad reputation for being, rough and tumble, but they were so much more humane and genteel than the people in the entertainment business. It was really quite interesting. So after a few years of working in the agency business and being, a kind of a very high level assistant / secretary, I was like, you know what? I don't like the agency business at all. I'd rather be talent than represent talent. And I was friends with Adam Sandler and friends with a bunch of people. And then he was finishing up Happy Gilmore, and then working on The Wedding Singer. And then The Wedding Singer, started to get made, and I was friends with Adam, and he said, "Do you want to be in it?" And I was like, okay. Nobody really knew at that point. We knew Adam was famous, but nobody knew the level of his fame, because you're kind of in this bubble where you don't realize. And again, there was no social media,
Right.
where you don't know how suddenly one day he's going to become this gigantic movie star, which he did after The Wedding Singer. Yeah.
So what was it like to be on set?
Oh, it's fun, but it is, the thing about being on a movie set is that there's a lot of hurry up, with life. And I think that I'm okay being bored. And I feel like that's a good thing. People that do, I think, on the actors or entertainers that get sucked into that, the drugs and the alcohol, I think it's because they're not good at being bored. And I had spent my life being bored, waiting around for people, just waiting for shit to happen. Pardon my language, but waiting for planes to take off, waiting for people to be done. So if you're waiting for people and to do their stuff, you have to figure out how to safely and smartly entertain yourself. And so I was okay with that. So being on a movie set is incredibly boring. And I think that's why people drink and probably do drugs, because you're kind of bored and you're just waiting around for them to get the lighting right, them to get the shot right, the scene before you to finish, somebody else to have, it's a whole living, breathing organism, kind of like being in a fish tank, where you just don't know really what's going to happen, but they have to bring in things and do things. And so if you're not okay being bored, then I would not suggest going to a movie set, because it's boring. But then when you're on, it's you got to just go. You got to be ready to go.
So I recall seeing it, but you were a flight attendant. But was there any of this, they just said, say these lines, or did you say, wait, what if I said this instead? Or was there any of that? Or was it just this is it?
Yes. So because there's some physical part of it. So yeah, there was some of that. So I was the Joyce, the flight attendant in first class. And so then they were like, okay, you're going to give Adam this towel, and then he's going to ad lib, and then you can kind of ad lib with him. And I was like, I don't even know what that means, but okay. Because you don't really know. You're like, all right, sure. All right, what? You have no idea. And so you're on a fake airplane because you're on a scene. And so it's very narrow and tight. And suddenly then they hand you the other thing is that the props are all weird, because on an airplane, you don't have a bowl. I had a bowl to collect the towels. And I was like, I don't think they collect the towels from first class in a bowl, but okay. So yeah, there is just a bunch of all right, we'll just figure this out. And so in the scene, he hands me back the towel, which you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to put it on the tray or the bowl. And then my reaction was my reaction. I'm like, that's not right. But it's funny and cute, and people, still enjoy it. And then there were a couple other scenes that for continuity were taken out because, they have to go back in and edit. And if it doesn't seem right, or it's not flowing or whatever, nothing based on performance, I was told.
Of course.
I was told. I could be wrong, but so that was lots of fun. And I still get my little residual checks every
do you really?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, like
Um,
probably like, a couple $100, a year from residuals.
and is it just because it's shown on some random channel somewhere or
Yeah,
whatever?
they show it on like Comedy Central and Bravo, and so maybe, yeah. I mean, it probably ends up being like $200 a year in residuals, but that's not bad. It's still, it's like I'll take it. Why not? It's good. It makes me happy, and I look at it. I'm like, that's kind of fun. You still see, the whole thing, and I'm like, wow, it was so long ago. Like that was so long ago.
It's kibble money.
Yeah, it is. Yes. I enjoy seeing it, and I'm like, that was a fun thing. And the movie, I think, still resonates with people because, Adam is a great storyteller, and he really can share we all know what that feels like to have somebody that you care about, and then they don't care about you, like all these things, and then to be happy, and just the highs and the lows and all of that of love, and then ultimately, finding your romance. It's a nice romantic comedy for sure.
All right. So, and is there any way you're still in touch with him at all, or would he remember you and all this kind of stuff, or what do you think?
I think so. I mean, I'm in touch with Rob. I mean, so like I've seen Rob Schneider a bunch of times, and Rob has a book coming out this fall, I think. So I'm very proud of Rob, and he's a great guy, and we're still good friends. Yes, I believe that if I saw Adam, he would, hopefully say hi to me. No, he was on tour a few years ago, and I went to see him and went backstage and saw him, and it was
that's good.
Nice to say hi and reconnect. Yeah.
That's good. It's funny. I always feel like I see pictures of him, but it's always a picture from the paparazzi that's got him like leaving Home Depot or something. It's never anything else. So it's he's got pretty random shots. But is he still out in LA, or is he in the city? Yeah,
he's in Los Angeles. Well, he dresses like that anyway. I mean, Adam is always the guy that's like in the hoodie and the sweatpants. Like, it's not. He definitely is a much more casual dresser than some other Hollywood people. But yeah, he's cool, and he's a great dad and a great husband and a great son. And he is all the things that I think people want to he really represents all the things that he is in his movies, and he is definitely funny. In fact, years ago, before he was married, we were at a party at his house, and my friend Richard, and there's all the beautiful models and whatever, and my friend Richard said one of the funniest things that still makes me laugh when I think about it. He had this great house in the Hollywood Hills, and Richard looked at me and he goes, "I wish I was funny."
Nice.
So like, it's like being funny gets you things. And so we kind of laugh about that. He's like, wow, I wish I was funny. So yeah,
that's great.
I know.
I guess it's true. It's interesting because people do love, when they go to a comedy show, they love, people love comedians. They make them feel good, right? People are drawn to that sort of thing. So that makes perfect sense. Okay, so I want to know, what was it that made you wake up one morning and be like, you know what? Author. I'm going to be an author.
Well, so going way back, because again, being on these airplane rides, and my mom was a teacher prior to running the Eagle, being an entrepreneur. She was a teacher. So reading and writing were always a huge part of, my daily activities. And I was bored. So she would hand me a legal pad and say, write things down. So Football Freddy kind of really started in the 80s while on an airplane, just making notes of things that I had seen or whatever else. And so in 2017, my mom had said to me, and I think she knew that something was kind of changing in her with her mental state and some pre-dementia stuff, although we really weren't sure until a few years ago what was going on. But so she said, you should take out that book. And at the time it was Football Frankie. It wasn't even Freddie. She said, because I like Ben Franklin and Philadelphia. She said, why don't you talk to my mom had written a business book called Briefcase Essentials. And so she said, let's talk to Clint. I think you should do something with that story. And so Clint doesn't do children's books. And he said, oh, but I have my friend Naren is in the kids space. Talk to him. So I set up a call with Naren and it went really well. And I told him kind of what I had done and what I was thinking. And he was like, oh, this is great for many reasons. I love the story and I love the idea and traveling around and being a young girl. And he said, but it's intellectual property. And at the time, they did not have any intellectual property in their publishing group. So he said, this is a great idea because it's all based on your true stories and it's your IP and that will be great. So kind of as a hobby, I wrote Football Freddy. We changed it to Freddy, not Frankie, because we did a bunch of research and there was a book that never got published called Frankie Football. And I thought, I don't want to have I want it to be clean. So we just changed it to Freddy. And so Football Freddy and Fumble the dog, and Fumble really is my dog, although he's really disloyal right now because he's like eating, I guess, my mother's lunch or something. So hopefully he'll make an appearance. So Football Freddy and Fumble the Dog Game Day in Philadelphia, which takes you on a tour through the city of Philadelphia. You learn about the sights and the things that happen in Philly, the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, and then you make your way to the stadium to cheer on the home team. Pretty simple concept, but incorporating travel, tourism, friendship, being a fan, and getting to go to the stadium and sing the national anthem and cheer for the team. And then of course the home team wins. So that book did well. I mean, and it was like, okay, that's cool. But then it was really definitely some divine intervention because that year, 2017-18, I kept going back to Philadelphia every weekend because there kept being football games after the regular season. And then suddenly we had sold thousands of books because the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl. And then I was like, this can't be real. Like, I can't, this is unreal. Like, how did this happen? Like, I wasn't even planning on people even buying one copy, let alone going to Barnes and Noble in a weekend, like 8 different Barnes and Nobles and selling books. And so, we sold thousands and thousands of books. The Eagles won the Super Bowl, went into a reprint. And then I was like, well, maybe we should try it again. And so then did one about the Carolinas, which did well. And now my 10th book is about to come out. And last year I teamed up with the Hall of Fame. So while at the Hall of Fame promoting that book, I met Letha Atwater, Steve Atwater's wife, Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner. And Letha has, an incredible background herself. And she's a clinical psychologist and with a bunch of degrees. And so we decided to incorporate a little bit of mental wellness into this book about getting kids excited about reading and playing and being a fan and the whole game day experience. And so Letha has been able to really bring a lot of her wisdom to this book. And so I'm super excited to share it with everybody. And, it's done now, but now it's like waiting to actually get the actual book in my hands, which will happen in the next couple of weeks.
How long does it usually take between sort of finishing it and it being out? Is it just a few weeks or is it a couple of months, few months?
It usually, this process was a little bit different and I'm not even sure why, but by the time I finish this will go much faster. We finished the book recently and I'll have the turnaround much faster only because we've got the Hall of Fame next week in 2 weeks. And so we want to be able to have books for that. Usually it takes a couple weeks to get the book finished in the right, it takes a few months to get it right with the illustrations and the story, editing and re-editing, and then get it off to the printer. And then in a few months, like it usually takes about 8 weeks to get the book back, but we're going a little bit faster this time. So we'll see. Yeah. But the book is done. It's just, I haven't seen it yet. And it's, hardback version.
Yeah, that's cool. Real quick, if anybody has any questions, throw them in that Q&A section on your right there. On the right of your screen, you'll see it says Q&A. Make sure you throw them in there, and happy to ask Marnie those questions. All right, so when you got the very first book, the very first one in the mail, tell me about your experience when you first felt it. Was it, were you like, holy, whatever? What was it like?
The whole process is this was 6 years ago now. Yes, I remember getting the first, getting the books, sent here and opening up the box of books and being like, wow, this is so crazy that this was you know how you know what they say? It's like it happened overnight, only over 40 years. It's 40 years overnight. So it was literally like my entire life that suddenly happened overnight. And I think that that's what people that are successful, it's like it doesn't happen overnight, but it feels like it does because we, you know, our brains, like to me at least, it's kind of like we have amnesia, which is why we keep doing the hard stuff all the time because we crave it and we like it and we're okay with it. So it's like we just keep doing it. So like then when you get the results, you're like, okay, well, wait a minute, that wasn't that bad. I'll just keep doing that again because I feel like that's how people that are successful train themselves to continue to go and do more and do more and keep going. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it because you'd be like, that was really annoying and exhausting and stressful, and I don't want to do it again. But like we kind of crave that in our own weird way. So we just keep doing it again because we've trained ourselves to like be immune from any of like the yucky stuff. We like it.
Well, not to state the obvious, but I've never been pregnant. But what they say is that it's very much like, you know, giving birth, right? When you know, once you have that baby, you forget the previous 9 months of everything, right? And it's just, you know, when I first got my book, I was kind of like that moment, this was the baby, and I was kind of like, oh my God, this is incredible, and oh, I'm in love with this baby and all that sort of thing. And I kind of, you know, for a little while forgot the previous year of everything, because it's funny when you write a book, it's not just writing the book. I mean, you write the manuscript and then you're, you know, and, you know, proofreading it, all this kind of stuff. And then when I did all that, I was like, oh, sweet, I'm done. No, you're not done. You're like halfway done. Because then there's the cover art, the font, the this, the that, the page numbers, the whatever it is, the ISBN numbers, the stupid picture on the back. Which one do you pick? All these, you know, who are you quoting? What were they saying? Like all this stuff. But still, it's so exciting that it's funny. When I first got I guess it was the proof copy. So I didn't get a box of them. I just got the one. But I took this out and I was kind of like, I don't care if they got everything wrong in here. It's like, it's just something, but I did care. But then anyway, so I took a quick selfie picture, but this is back, you know, this was maybe 7 years ago. And this was really, I was not an expert at selfies. So the picture I took was not like me holding it here. It was like this or something. So I sent it to my wife and she was like, what is it, like a coloring book? Because it looked like a huge book. And so she thought it was just like this big giant, I'm like, no, it's not a coloring book. But it's pretty, I mean, it's funny because I am considering writing another one. And a part of me is saying, you know, don't do it. You're an idiot. Don't do it. But the other part of me is like, but you'll love having that second baby. So I can only imagine going through 10. That's absolutely amazing. And it's, and obviously you've got, you know, 20 plus in front of you, I guess.
I do. Yeah. And then all the, you know, our plan is with Gameday, you know, for me, and it's like, and yes, Mark, I'm going to cheerlead you on to do the second book, because I think that like you will feel much better about, you know, everything that you've done when you do that. So I think myself and whoever else is, you know, is listening in, I think we'll all be your cheerleaders to get you to do another book, because if you're talking about it, it's something that I think you're already working on it in your, you know, in your mind. So yeah, it is hard, but everything's hard. You know, writing the book is hard. Promoting the book is hard. Getting it all together is hard, but you know what? So is life. It's like, you know, those are things that like, again, but you're wired for that stuff. So you can do that. Like, you know how to do that. That's easy. You know, that's easy. It's not going to be, it's much harder, I think, than if you don't do it, I think that's much harder than if you do it.
Good. Very good point. All right. You're hired or something. Whatever. Thanks for ghostwriting it for me. So tell me a little bit quickly about some of the philanthropy that you're involved with, because I know, you know, your grandfather founded Ronald McDonald House, which is absolutely incredible. But I know you're deeply involved with them, but you're involved with lots of others. Tell me a little bit about some of them that keep you busy.
Well, so, you know, everything in my life really relates to a few different things. Getting kids excited about reading and playing. And we met because also, you know, I had worked with Scott. I worked for Major League Baseball and had a foundation called Keep On Playing. Yeah. And that was pretty much the kind of the grassroots way to get kids in the underserved communities to go to take them to minor league baseball games, get them excited about being a fan. I love minor league baseball. It's an incredible place to go. You see world-class talent, and the tickets are very affordable. The food is affordable. The venues are great. So it was really fun for me to work with different communities to get kids to games and get them excited about doing that. So I love the idea of getting kids at a live sporting event, taking them to a professional football game or professional baseball or basketball is almost unrealistic when you think about the prices of all the tickets and the food and everything else. So, but minor league offers a great opportunity. So for me, and this is kind of also why it was really important for me to start working on Football Freddy. And my mom knew my passion of getting kids excited about reading and playing. I love the idea of getting everybody to do all those things. I definitely think that sports are the universal language. So I'm very involved in the Ronald McDonald House, and I'm also incredibly involved in, I'm on the board here of the Charlotte Humane Society. I have a rescue dog and rescue dogs, plural. My star of my show is really, really letting me just, hang out here to by myself today. Usually he's pretty good at this stuff. So I love animals, and I think that animals provide incredible comfort for their humans. And so since they don't have the opportunity to speak, we have to often be their voices. And I'm very thankful for the love that the pets have brought into my life. So if I can find ways to help them, then I definitely do that. And then also Soldiers to Sidelines. I'm something that, my grandfather was one of only 6 NFL owners that ever served in the military.
Oh, wow.
And I grew up going to football games at Veteran Stadium. So those are things that really matter to me. I mean, obviously, I love the whole idea of, going to a football stadium and seeing these great stadiums, but something about playing at the Vet was always extra special. And I don't know why. And I would go to the Army Navy game with my grandfather, and he, as a military guy, loved hosting the Army Navy game at Veterans Stadium. And I think that it was just something that I grew up really feeling very thankful. I still am. And I tell Karen, thank you for her service all the time. Thankful for the military, because without the military, we aren't able to have football games and things that are just that we, seem like a normal Sunday is extra special, because I love the national anthem and I love in every book, we make sure to acknowledge the game is starting, put your hand on your heart, put your paw on your heart, take off your hat, and let's sing this beautiful song, because it really is part of the ritual of, football Sundays.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Now, with all that work that you're doing, so I mean, obviously, it sounds like you're pretty busy between all the book writing and you do go out and go on these book tours or book appearances and so forth. But I know that you do a lot of different things. You also host a podcast. You like to speak to crowds and so forth. But what would you say is your favorite thing to do?
Well, my favorite time of the day might be my favorite thing to do, and that is between the hours of like 6:30. I'm an early bird, but between the hours of like 6:30 and let's just say 9 in the morning, I'm very fortunate that my mom lives in the house with us here. And so I am very thankful that I love just getting a chance. It's really just the two of us. My kids might be asleep or the dogs are with us, and just getting some time to spend with her, even though she's not very verbal these days. I think that that's my favorite thing to do, is just to, have my own kind of conversation with her, even though it's different than I thought that it would be at this age.
Sure.
But I think that's I definitely enjoy my time with her, and I enjoy my time with my children, and because they they've grown up to be really good people. And so I'm very thankful and that they want to have conversations with me and want to talk to me. Sometimes it makes me a little bit nuts because they call a lot, but a lot. And, if they're not home, and they tell me everything, which is also great. So I'm very thankful for that. So I guess that I don't really have hobbies so much anymore, but I think my hobbies are going out and trying to make a difference. That's a hobby that I have.
All right. So last question. It's kind of an easy one. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Who are 3 people right now today that you'd love to have dinner with? And they could be alive, not alive, that sort of thing.
Let's see. Well, certainly would love to, have my grandfather around, to have dinner with him, and my grandmother too, my mom's mom. I guess like if I was going to be, um, I would, I probably would like to, I mean, out of all the, sure, I would like to have dinner with, I'd like to go ask Donald Trump what it was like on Saturday with, being up there. I think that that would be, I'm not super political, but I love our country. And I think that, any living president I would like to have dinner with, because they've done things that I think are, remarkable in their own way, whether you're on one side of the table or not. So any living president I would like to have some time with. And then, geez, you, Mark, I would like to have, how about you? We'll set up a dinner.
It's about time someone says that.
You.
No,
friends.
It's funny.
I don't know. My friends are really important to me. So
that's nice.
Friends.
I was thinking I'd love to just like with Abraham Lincoln or Teddy Roosevelt or even Napoleon or something, or some of these, or Jesus for that matter, or something like some of those folks. I've had some people say some pretty interesting folks, but no, I always love to ask that question. Well, look, listen, I want to have a chance for a couple of people to chat with you when we're done here. But right now, who would you say are some of the best people that you'd like to hear from? And what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
They can email me, or they can text me or call me, or I don't know, whatever. I think I'm pretty accessible. I mean, texting is always great. I mean, because you can respond pretty much right away. And if you're not able to jump on a call, then say, I'll call you back in a little bit or whatever. So I don't know, texting or email or phone calls, all of it.
Gotcha. And when's the next one being released?
It's available for pre-order now. So Gameday in Denver is available for pre-order. Gameday in Kansas City will be out right at the beginning of the season. And I'm working with Julie Green, Trent Green, who was quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. So Trent's wife, and Julie's amazing and awesome. And again, sports have brought so much into my life, and so many, that's why I really encourage it as a language for people to speak, because the people that I met were, certainly through my family connections, but I do think that when you can speak a little bit of sports, it can add so much to your life. Like I always say, it's gotten me in places that I want to be in and out of places that I want to be out of. And just a little bit of sports goes a long way.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because when I just, whether it's playing ice hockey or when I played rugby in college, I can meet somebody today. Doesn't matter what their background is, doesn't matter what they think politically, anything. But if I start talking hockey with them, every other barrier is gone. And you're absolutely right that the world of sports gives us an opportunity to speak about something that we're passionate about, that we can share that same passion for. And
we can all agree on a lot of things when we really get into it. You might not be a Philadelphia Eagle fan, but you might say, you know what, but I like Jalen Hurts, or I like this, or whatever it is about the team. The same way, you might not have been a Patriots fan, but we can all agree Tom Brady is really good. So, or Pat Mahomes. So I think that what it does is it isolates things that people can actually agree on. And the more things that people can agree on, I think that it really does make us a closer knit community versus being farther away. I like us being closer. And I think sports does that.
Bingo. Love it. Marnie, that was amazing. On that note, I'll wrap things up, but you were fantastic as always. Always loved having you, whether it's here or just, meeting in person and so forth. So thanks so much for sharing your time with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Likewise.